The incessant ringing of the call tones and the polite, busy chatter fill the air. "Mr. Johnson, Liam Johnson." My name is repeatedly called out, as if threading through the gaps between the sounds and voices. The call center of the beverage company where I work employs over 50 part-timers. On this floor alone, there are 3 people with the last name Johnson, so I'm always called by my full name. If I had a job title, I'd be called something like Manager Johnson or Leader Johnson. But 3 years after joining the company, there's been no talk of my promotion at all. And for good reason. As I approach the desk of my boss, Emma, who called me, I see her furrowing her beautiful eyebrows. We received a call from a client saying that the delivered products were incorrect. How many times has this happened this month? I glance at the calendar posted on the floor. It's only halfway through the 2nd week of this month. Twice last week, and this is the first time this week. So, 3 times. Look, I don't want to say this, but aren't you embarrassed? You've been doing the same job as the part-timers for 3 years since joining the company, and you make more mistakes than anyone else. She sighs as she looks at the order form that I apparently processed incorrectly. For the first 3 months after joining the company, I performed the same duties as the part-timers to get used to the company's ordering system. After that, the job of a full-time employee at this center involves a wide range of tasks, such as instructing part-timers, handling irregular orders, coordinating with factories, and personnel matters. In other words, general affairs. That's what I heard at the company orientation. I had just graduated from college and hadn't gotten out of the student mindset, so I didn't fully understand those words. I agreed over and over again, pretending to understand. The part-timers handle inputting orders received from clients in various forms into the company's proprietary ordering system. The most common method of ordering from clients is by phone, followed by fax. Supermarkets send their orders using the order form we specify via email, making it easy to input into the system. However, individuals running barbershops or construction companies often place orders by telling us the product names over the phone. Alternatively, they send faxes with handwritten notes. For such cases, we need to find the products that the clients want among the numerous products available and input them into the system. For example, our company sells 8 types of carbonated water. If we can figure it out from past orders, we need to contact the client and determine which carbonated water they want. Misunderstanding the client's request, entering the wrong code assigned to each product, or forgetting to take note of discontinued products can lead to delivery errors. I'm not good at communicating with clients. When talking to clients with a rough, old-fashioned way of speaking, I can only say yes. Even though Emma tells me, "You're a full-time employee," or "Aren't you embarrassed?" Many times, it's difficult for me. I've been trying to do what I can, like practicing simulations at home and creating scripts. When I respond with a small, ambiguous "yeah," Emma lets out another big sigh and says, "Well, whatever. I'm gonna go apologize to the client. Before I arrive, please make sure to call and apologize from your end too, Liam. And be prepared to inform them about the correct delivery date." As she says this to me, Emma packs her bag and leaves. A call to apologize. Hearing those words, I tremble slightly. I'll go too. I made the mistake, so I'll take action. I grab Emma's arm and say this. Her arm is surprisingly thin, and I instinctively let go immediately. Emma glances at the arm I grabbed. Then, she turns her sharp gaze toward me. There's no way I can take a colleague who might cause trouble to an important occasion like an apology. Emma passes by my side. From behind, I hear encouraging words from the part-timers. "Hang in there, Liam." The hand that grabbed Emma's arm is trembling. My colleagues who joined the company at the same time as me have been steadily completing their training and taking over clients from senior employees. However, because I'm not developing as expected, Emma hasn't been able to pass on any clients to anyone. She's being forced to handle tasks that shouldn't exist in the first place, like cleaning up after my mistakes and apologizing. I exhale deeply, releasing all the oxygen I've taken in. Slowly, so it doesn't sound like a sigh. There's no point in getting good at just these things. When I go out for drinks with my colleagues, we often choose a quiet bar that feels like a hideout, since the floor is noisy even during the day. A sound comes from my mug, blending into the relaxed background music. Mason has clinked his glass against my mug. I was looking forward to it, thinking it's been a while since you invited me out, Liam. I didn't expect you to be in such low spirits. Mason, who joined the company with me, loosens his tie and grins mischievously. He's not mocking me or forcibly trying to cheer me up. I think his gentle tone of voice suits his position in general affairs. Mason takes a sip from his glass of iced tea. When I ask, "No beer to start with," he politely declines, saying, "I gotta do laundry when I get home." I don't feel like drinking alcohol next to Mason, who's drinking iced tea. I take a sip of beer, and the bitterness that I usually find delicious makes the back of my eyes feel hot. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. I know it's too late to say that now. Even though I mutter it, my weak voice seems to echo in the quiet bar. Mason puts an ice cube from his glass into his mouth and says, "Yeah, I guess so. The person teaching you isn't really suited to be an instructor either." "You mean Emma?" Mason said yes, rolling the ice in his mouth like candy. "Emma is beautiful and would probably be incredibly good at her job if she were on her own. But that difficult personality of hers is making enemies." Enemies? I'm not trying to complain or gossip about Emma or anything. I know you're not, Liam, but apparently, the girl who was under Emma before you quit in tears because she was so strict, right? That's why they decided the next person to be Emma's colleague would be a man. Because a man can endure it. There are men who are more timid than women, you know. I say this as I put beans into my mouth, and Mason laughs loudly. "I might shrink away too if Emma were my boss," he says, and then, "I heard Emma wants to get promoted, but if she can't develop her colleagues, it'll be tough for her to go above the manager level." "Mason, where do you get that kind of information from?" When I ask suspiciously, Mason puffs out his thin chest. "It's better to get along with the part-timer aunties." Mason, who joined the same department as me, finished the in-house training faster than anyone else, and he became an assistant manager this spring, the fastest in the company. He has no problem communicating within the company or with external parties. Far from having problems, his reputation among clients is very good. I've heard that the number of orders has increased even though the clients are the same. We're often compared, even though we joined at the same time. Every time, Mason encourages me, saying, "Liam, you have strengths that only you possess. I envy the way you don't get flustered or shaken." Mason glances at his wristwatch. When I ask, "What's up?" Mason awkwardly says, "Autumn," and gulps down the rest of his iced tea. It was around the same time he got the assistant manager position. Mason married his high school classmate. After that, he stopped attending drinking parties as much, but when I occasionally invited him like this on weekends, he would keep me company until the last train. The current time is just past 8 p.m. Mason grabs his belongings and stands up, saying, "Sorry, I gotta go home now. It's only 8 o'clock. Come to think of it, you mentioned laundry earlier. Did something happen? Is your wife not feeling well or something?" I also hurriedly bring the beer mug to my mouth. I hand the half-empty mug to the waiter, saying, "Sorry for not finishing it. I've only told Davis, the deputy director, so far." Mason says as we step outside after paying the bill. As if struck by a thought, he puts on the jacket he was carrying on his arm and adjusts the collar. "I'm gonna be a father, you know." Mason has a slightly embarrassed but somewhat proud look on his face. He became an assistant manager in record time. Sales are on the rise, and he married his longtime classmate. And now he says he's going to be a father. He's steadily moving up the steps of life. Let me know when you find out the gender. We haven't even entered the stable period yet. You are jumping the gun. I want to celebrate, you know. When I say that on the station platform, Mason replies, "Thanks, man," with a slight tear in his eyes. Things may seem to be going smoothly for him from my perspective, but Mason might have overcome difficulties that only he understands to get to where he is now. Even though I know that, the words Emma said to me the other day keep echoing in the back of my mind. "Aren't you embarrassed? I live alone when I go home. Even if I get fired for making a mistake at work, it won't inconvenience anyone. If I make a mistake, it will cause trouble for the people at the company and the clients, though. I didn't feel like going straight home to an empty apartment. However, I don't have any friends I can contact at a time like this." My close friends from college all seem to be busy with positions they've already gotten or working on new projects. I'm the only one still stuck in the same place as when we graduated. I hurry back to the ticket gate from the platform. I left the station, and I run through the night town. And I arrive in front of the company. Right after I got the job offer, I rushed here through the night town just like this. What was I thinking when I looked up at the company back then? The floor where I usually work still has the lights on. Someone must still be working overtime. What am I doing? Just as I'm about to turn on my heels while catching my bouncing breath, Emma comes out of the automatic doors of the building. Oh no, she'll see me. I hurriedly hide behind an object in front of the building, and I steal a glance at the automatic doors. Emma, who came out of the building with the client I recently made a delivery mistake with, saw off until the client heading towards the station is out of sight. After seeing off the client, who disappeared into the crowd to clean up my mistake, Emma hurries back into the building. And a few minutes later, the floor goes dark. Emma, who comes out of the automatic doors while saying goodbye to the security guard, also heads towards the station and disappears from view. Until this late. The watch I hadn't changed since I was a new graduate points to 9 p.m. The fact that she rushed home might mean she has something to do. I don't know how old Emma is, but it wouldn't be strange for her to have plans with friends, lessons, or hobbies. My mistakes are even cutting into Emma's private time. I never noticed that until now. I clench my fist with my slightly open palm. Maybe it's because summer is approaching, but my palm is a bit sweaty. Our company's first half ends in summer. That's why the end of August, an odd time, is the turning point of the fiscal year. Every year, in mid-September, after getting through the hectic month of August where we genuinely wish we had more hands on deck, we hold a company party. Each team divided within the center goes to a restaurant of their choice. The organizers are usually the new graduates who joined the company that year. Last year, because I didn't develop as expected, no new graduates joined our team led by Emma. However, this year, new graduates joined our team as well. I should have been relieved that I didn't have to be an organizer. I thought it was a casual diner for Lily to choose. Ms. Anderson and Ms. Harris say, looking at me with a laugh. It was in early September when things had settled down a bit. I was about to go tell Lily, the new graduate, about being the organizer for the company party. That's when Emma told me, since Lily is also supporting me, you two should organize the party together. While Lily was taking care of the leftover work from the summer business, I decided on the restaurant and gathered the number of participants, and Lily made the reservation and prepared the invitation. I tried to ask Mason what kind of restaurant would be good, but he seemed busy with both work and family matters, so I couldn't approach him. As a result, our team, which has many women, ended up holding the company party at a casual diner. I've already ordered the menu, things that women would likely enjoy. If there's anything additional you'd like to order, please let me know, Lily says, swaying her bright hair tied up high. And since Davis is here today, a quiet restaurant might not be as enjoyable for him, so this place is a good job. After exchanging glances with Ms. Anderson and Ms. Harris, Lily gives me a thumbs up. Thanks, I say, returning the same pose on a smaller scale, and she gives me a dazzling smile. Lily gives off the same vibe as Mason. She's good at her job, has strong communication skills, and isn't sarcastic. She engages in conversation with someone like me without hesitation. She's someone I aspire to be but can't reach. I notice my mouth twisting into a grimace, so I instinctively cover my mouth and look down. The part-timers, who were complaining at first, have started to get pleasantly drunk. Lily and Emma are sitting next to Davis. I'm taking orders, listening to the part-timers' complaints, and handling other miscellaneous tasks like a true general affairs employee. Liam, you listen to everything, so I end up talking too much, Ms. Anderson says, clearing her throat with a lemon sour while spilling her family grievances. Ms. Harris agreed vigorously as she puts a piece of fried chicken in her mouth. Davis's loud laughter can be heard over the diner's background music and the voices from other tables. I'm glad the company party is a success. Just as I'm mentally pumping my fist as an organizer, I hear Davis's flustered voice. Emma, hey, are you okay? All the part-timers and I stand up at his voice. At the end of everyone's gaze, Emma is unusually slumped over the table, with disheveled hair. I think I've heard about this before. Come to think of it, Emma originally doesn't drink, right? Miss Harris says while patting Emma on the back. Davis probably got carried away and pushed too many drinks on her. Emma isn't the type of person who doesn't know her own limits. Everyone present here knew that. Oh, this works out perfectly, Lily says, clapping her hands together beautifully. Everyone's attention turns to Lily. You see, it's a good time anyway. As the organizers, Liam and I will take responsibility and escort Miss Williams all the way home. I could see Davis's stiff face softening at Lily's bright voice and words. I see. No, I'm sorry. Come to think of it, I forgot I have an early start tomorrow too, Davis says as he passes between me and Lily. Thanks for the fun party, he adds. Although Davis holds the position of deputy director in the sales department, he essentially serves as the center director overseeing the order receiving center. When the order receiving center wants to make a request to the headquarters, we have to go through Davis, and all the notifications and scoldings from the headquarters fall on Davis. Even though he's always smiling, I'm sure there's a lot of pus accumulating at the bottom of his stomach. Even if he accidentally let loose, I can't blame him. Rather, if he enjoyed himself, I think that's good enough. After seeing off the part-timers heading to the station, Lily and I caught a taxi. We somehow managed to decipher Emma's slurred speech and arrived in a quiet residential area lined with detached houses. We ring the doorbell of a house with a simple nameplate that reads Williams. Then, we hear the sound of clumsy footsteps. When the front door opens, a child comes running out. Mom. The child's height suggests they are probably in the upper grades of elementary school. The child runs straight from the entrance to Emma, laughing. You smell like alcohol. Lily and I widen our eyes and look at each other. Oh, sorry. Are you friends with my mom? The boy, who seems to have finally noticed us, runs back to the entrance and calls out to someone inside. Grandma, we have guests. His voice, still high-pitched and uneven due to puberty, echoes through the residential area at night. Oh, I'm so sorry. My daughter has caused you trouble. The woman who appears, led by the boy's hand, closely resembles Emma. Upon closer inspection, the boy also looks just like Emma. This child is my grandson, Ethan, the son of my daughter, Emma. I'm Emma's mother, Natalie Williams. Natalie greeted kindly, and when she raises her head, her upright posture convinces me that she is indeed Emma's mother. After carrying Emma into the house, Natalie asks, would you like to rest for a bit and prepare some warm tea for us? I thought, who drinks hot tea in September when the lingering summer heat is still strong? But the tea Natalie made for us had a warmth that seeped into our bodies, and before I knew it, I had finished it. Emma is strict with herself and those around her, isn't she? That's how Natalie starts talking about Emma. Emma gave birth to Ethan while she was in college and became a single mother. For a while, she raised Ethan on her own. He's passed away now, but my husband, Emma's father, was a stubborn man, even stricter than Emma. He stubbornly cut ties with Emma, saying he wouldn't provide any support. Emma, being stubborn herself, said she wouldn't accept help from anyone and ran off. Her father, who actually wanted to see his grandson's face more than anyone, always stayed by the entrance, wondering when Emma would come back. And Natalie, who was worried about her only daughter and grandson, kept trying to contact Emma. It was during the winter when Ethan first caught the flu. Emma apparently called Natalie in tears, asking for help. And Emma reportedly moved back home so she could focus on her work, thinking that rising through the ranks was the only way to provide for Ethan's education and other expenses. I approach Ethan, who was listening to Natalie's story, on the living room sofa. As I sit next to Ethan, I see myself reflected in his wise but still childlike eyes. Emma works overtime more than anyone else. With a work style that seems to disregard her personal life, everyone assumed she was single and had no romantic partner. I never imagined that a child would be waiting for her at home. Your mom is often not at home, right? I ask, and Ethan nods slightly. Don't you feel lonely? Ethan starts to agree but quickly shakes his head. Mom is working hard for me, so I have to work hard too. Ethan smiles, looking towards the second floor where Emma is sleeping. The next day, a red-faced Emma calls Lily and me into the conference room. Busily pressing her forehead and temples, she mutters, "I want you to keep my son Ethan a secret at the company." Apparently, the only person at this center who knows about Ethan is Davis. Even at the headquarters, only those above the manager level are aware of this information. If they know you have a child, wouldn't they consider your workload? Lily asks, tears welling up in her eyes, and Emma looks down. Then I wouldn't be able to move up, would I? I couldn't tell if Emma's voice was trembling out of frustration or because she was thinking about Ethan's loneliness. There was only one thing I knew at this moment. If I grow, Emma's overtime hours will decrease. If her colleagues develop, if I develop, Emma can get promoted. I could definitely feel a passion welling up inside me that I had never experienced before. Liam, you've been making fewer mistakes lately. 2 months have passed since I learned about Ethan's existence. The humidity unique to summer has disappeared, and there's a slight chill in the air. In the fall of my 3rd year with the company, I'm finally able to graduate from the new employee training. My desk, which used to be among the part-timers, has been moved next to Emma's. Starting tomorrow, I'll be able to gradually take over some of Emma's clients. Davis told me that my relationship with the part-timers has been evaluated, and I may be involved in personnel affairs starting next spring. Ethan will be starting middle school this coming spring. With club activities, cram school, and high school entrance exams, he'll likely need Emma's support more than ever. If I could support Emma more, that single-minded determination has brought me this far. It wasn't just me who thought that way. Lily has also changed since meeting Ethan. Her innate sociability has been polished, and she graduated from the new employee training ahead of me. She has already taken over several of Emma's clients. Because both of you are working so hard, I can focus more on planning. Emma says, rolling up the sleeves of her lavender suit jacket. Lily and I exchanged glances behind Emma. Then, we started talking to her. Emma, what is it? Is something troubling you? No. Since you work overtime every day, I thought you could go home early today, at least. Emma takes her eyes off the display and lets out a bitter laugh, saying, "What?" All of a sudden, we had heard that today was Ethan's birthday. We really wanted her to go home on time today. That's why Lily and I had been organizing our work schedule for the past 2 weeks, and we had asked Mason, who holds a managerial position, so that Emma wouldn't have to handle any troubles that might arise. The complaint handling in the afternoon. So that's why Mason offered to take over for me. Seeing our desperate expressions, Emma seems to have realized something. She shows a happy smile, but it quickly turns into a sad one. "Thank you, but it's okay. I'll just accept your kind thoughts. But Ethan must be waiting for you. No matter how strong he acts, he's still in elementary school. He's not waiting for a terrible mother like me." Emma cuts me off. Then, she looks down sadly and says, "We had a fight this morning. When I told him I'd try to come home early today, he said, 'You always say that, Mom.' It's rare for him to make a sarcastic remark, so I thought I'd been making him endure all this time. When I apologized, he said, 'Don't apologize now,' and then he started crying." Emma raises her head with force and glares at the display. "Parenting is hard. It's painful. I haven't been able to spend much time with him, so it's my own fault." Emma starts typing on the keyboard with the same rhythm as before she started talking. "Even though I'm supposed to be working for my child, I feel like I'm only making him unhappy," she says, trying not to let the tears welling up in her eyes spill out. That's when it happened. "Emma, you have a phone call." When we look in the direction of the voice, Ms. Anderson has her hand raised. "Yes, I'll take it. Please put them through." "Who's calling?" Emma says, pressing a tissue to the corner of her eye. Ms. Anderson looks around and then rushes over to us. She leans in and lowers her voice. They say it's Emma's child or something. Instantly, Emma's hand starts to tremble. Emma's face turns pale, and she can't even respond to Ms. Anderson's words. "You have a child. Emma, if it's a prank, should I handle it?" Emma stops Ms. Anderson, who continues talking, with her right hand. She picks up the receiver at the edge of the desk and presses the outside line button. "Hello, Mom. Mom." The voice leaking through to where I am is undoubtedly Ethan's. However, it's not the calm voice I heard the other day. Anyone can tell he's agitated. "Why are you calling? I told you so many times not to call the company phone." I knew that, but you left your cell phone at home, Mom. At Ethan's words, Emma glances at her bag. She must have lacked composure due to the fight this morning. Still, it's just like Emma not to forget her work cell phone. But the company is. You can't do what you're not supposed to. I told you not to call no matter what, right? But Mom, listen. Mom is disappointed since this morning. Ethan, it's your birthday, the day you become a year older, but you're unusually selfish from the morning. Breaking promises with me. Did you want me to come home early today so badly that you'd go that far? Are you that kind of child, Ethan? Emma, that's too much. I take the receiver from Emma, whose words are getting heated. On the other end of the line, Ethan is crying, but, Lily, take Emma to the conference room. Yes. Emma, still trembling, disappears into the conference room supported by Lily. Ms. Anderson, please return to your seat. Thank you. And keep this matter confidential until Emma says something about it. Ms. Anderson stares at the conference room with a worried look, but returns an okay sign with her fingers. As she leaves, she says, Liam, you've changed somehow. I take a deep breath before speaking into the receiver. Hello, Ethan. Long time no see. I'm your mom's friend who visited your house the other day. The big brother. Yeah, the big brother. Your mom is a bit busy right now. Can I listen to you instead? Ethan on the other end of the line seems to have calmed down more than before. Thank you, he says, sounding smart again. What happened? Is something wrong? Yeah, it's Grandma. Ethan's voice starts to tremble again. I unconsciously stand up. Grandma, what's wrong? Did something happen to Grandma? After hearing Ethan, who started crying, I quickly head to the conference room. There, I find Emma slumped over, with her shoulders drooping. Emma, this isn't the time to be depressed. Please go home right now. Emma raises her face at my voice, and her eyes are still filled with tears. It seems your mother, Natalie, fell while changing the birthday decorations and can't move. I told Ethan to call an ambulance. Natalie was able to talk on the phone, so I think there's no problem, but Ethan will surely be anxious after Natalie is taken to the hospital, so please go home today. When I hand Emma the jacket and belongings I gathered from her desk, she accepts them obediently. Both Lily and I relax our shoulders at that moment. That's when Emma mutters, but I said such horrible things. My head feels hot. Ethan, who was sobbing during the phone call with Emma, stopped crying the moment I became the one talking to him. I'm sure if it had been Emma beside Ethan that day when I asked him, don't you feel lonely? Instead of Natalie, Ethan would have shed large tears. He might have cried and said he was lonely. Until today, I had been working hard, hoping Ethan would honestly say, I'm lonely, to Emma. You can only be with Ethan as he is now. When I raise my voice, Emma jumps. With that motion, the tears she was holding back splash onto the desk. Thank you, and I'm sorry. Emma says and rushes out of the conference room. The next day, Emma takes paid leave. In the 13 years since Emma joined a company, she may have worked on holidays, but apparently, she had never even requested a day off. I answer the phone when Emma calls the company to request leave. I felt like paid leave was some kind of big wall. Emma prefaces with a light laugh, but it's surprisingly simple. Emma's voice sounds refreshed. Later, after receiving a report that Natalie has been discharged from the hospital, Emma comes to work that very day. You could have rested a little longer. Isn't it still hectic at home? I ask in a lowered voice, and Emma looks around the floor, saying, yeah, that's why. Then, after confirming that Davis is seated at his desk, she turns to me. I'm sorry, I'll put you through some trouble, but does that mean you'll be taking a long leave? Emma quietly shakes her head. Then I wouldn't be able to make a living. She smiles. You'll understand soon enough. Saying that, Emma stands up. Then, maintaining a correct posture, she walks to Davis's desk and disappears into the conference room with him. It was 3 days later. It is announced that Emma will be working shorter hours for a while. At the same time, Davis informs us that Emma will be removed from her position as manager and become a contract employee. During the announcement, Emma looks apologetic next to Davis. I apologize for the inconvenience, she says repeatedly, biting her lips. This sucks. Mason mutters beside me. Then he holds out his fist to me. Is not the time to be stunned. I bump my fist against Mason's. 5 years have passed since Emma requested shorter working hours and essentially lost her position as manager. Both Mason and I have turned 30. Today, Mason and I have been called to the headquarters. Then, Mr. Bennett calls out to Mason. Yes, the order receiving center is fundamentally under the sales department at the headquarters. Although our work is as wide-ranging as general affairs, we are overseen by the director of the sales department headquarters. Mr. Bennett, the director of the sales department, calls Mason. Mason stands up with the correct posture in the guest room adjacent to the sales department. Mason, I would like you to take charge of the sales department's order receiving center section as the deputy director of the sales department starting in April. Mason receives a certificate that likely has his appointment written on it. Even though he's a deputy director, this makes Mason the person with the most authority in the order receiving center. They say it's the fastest in the company to become the head of a center as a deputy director at the age of 30. Mr. Bennett places his hand on Mason's shoulder and says, I have high expectations for you. Next, Liam. Yes. I also move to stand in front of Mr. Bennett, following Mason. Mr. Bennett smiles gently. I was worried about how things would go for the first 3 years, but Mr. Bennett prefaces before reading the appointment. Liam, I'd like you to continue supporting Mason as the manager of the sales department's order receiving center section at the center. Yes, sir. Since Emma stopped being the manager, one manager position at the order receiving center had remained vacant. Everyone felt that it was unfair for Emma to have her position removed. Well then, let me hear your aspirations from both of you. It seems it will be published in the company newsletter, so please give me some suitable sounding lines. Mr. Bennett sits comfortably on the sofa. Within his gentle eyes, a hint of color seeps in as if testing Mason and me. Mason and I look at each other. After taking a deep breath, Mason steps forward in front of me. Both Liam and I have always had the same vision for the kind of center we should aim for. What is it? I'd love to hear it. Mr. Bennett leans forward. He gazes at Mason while stroking his chin. We will create a workplace where women can work comfortably, and men can also perceive child care as their own responsibility. For example, at Mr. Bennett's prompt, it's my turn to step forward. Standing next to Mason, I put into words the future we've discussed many times together. First, we'll introduce remote work. Then, we'll create a system where employees can remain full-time even with shorter working hours. While working together at the center, there are many part-timers who have the ability but are forced to give up on becoming full-time employees because their work style becomes a hindrance. I felt it was a huge waste for such individuals to have their age become an obstacle after their children have grown up. I feel the fist I made becoming sweaty. I'm nervous and my knees are trembling. I've always been the worst at these kinds of situations. But when I think of former manager Emma and Ethan's faces, I realize I have no choice but to face forward. Well, I won't oppose it, but it won't be easy to convince those above me. Mason and I agreed with Mr. Bennett's provocative expression. Leave it to us. Mason and I say in unison. Mr. Bennett widens his eyes and then laughs heartily. I'm looking forward to April when I can entrust the center to you, he says. Standing up, Mr. Bennett extends his right hand to me and his left hand to Mason. Mr. Bennett's hands are also sweaty. A new beginning is nerve-wracking even for those seeing you off. Mr. Bennett says, turning his gaze outside the window. I heard Ethan is taking university entrance exams. Apparently, former manager Emma won't return to her position as manager even after Ethan enters university. She declined, saying the 5-year gap is bigger than one might think. It was Mr. Bennett who spoke to former manager Emma. Following Mr. Bennett, Mason also looks outside the window. They both have a lonely look on their faces, as if they are not fully satisfied. Yet, they are filled with determination. If it weren't for what happened with former manager Emma, I might not have been able to work hard enough to earn the position of manager. And if Mason didn't have a child, he probably wouldn't have agreed to such a system reform. I learned that one can't work hard solely for oneself. Let's do our best. Mason mutters. I agreed vigorously. Mr. Bennett once again says, I have high hopes for you, this time with a full smile.